Hello everybody, it is the Dark Conservatarian and I am back on my channel streaming the news again.
What's up, everybody? We got nobody in the chat right now, but hopefully soon we will have some people joining. But yeah, I saw a video recently on Facebook. One of my family members actually shared it. It was a piece of footage of some Muslim gang just randomly attacking people in the streets, and I just thought it was a pretty disgusting sight, and I thought I had to add this in an edition of Strike Force. Didn't know when, just knew I had to get to it, and so I thought I got an available evening right now, so I thought, hey, why not do it right now? But let me screen share it. Unfortunately, I cannot find the video again on Facebook for some reason, so I will not be streaming it. And even if I did, it probably would get taken down for violent content or something. Who knows? But yeah, the name of this website is called Liverpool Echo, and I think Liverpool is actually the name of the city that the Muslim gang attack was taking place in. Taking place at, of the footage that I was watching, anyways. Name of the article goes, gang rampaged through Liverpool attacking strangers because they were white non-Muslims, quote unquote. So we don't even know for sure if whether or not these people were non-Muslim. So it may be just flat out racism and not really a dislike of people who are not Muslim, but suspicion that white people are not Muslim, and so therefore we hate them. Or who knows? I can't psychoanalyze these people, so let's just get on with what the article says, with just the facts. One witness feared the men were ISIS extremists, and counterterrorism officers later raided the three men's homes. Well, I'm not going to go off of your fears and feelings of whether or not they were ISIS extremists. And as far as I know, ISIS is on the run, if not outright defeated. So they're not much of a concern anymore. So I would highly doubt that these particular Muslims were ISIS related at all. A gang of men rampaged through Liverpool city center, attacking what the heck? Is there like an... Okay. Stupid ads popping up. A gang of men rampaged through Liverpool city center, attacking strangers because they were white non-Muslims, quote unquote. One witness feared Amin Mohamed, however you pronounce that, Mohammed Patel and Farouk Patel were ISIS terrorists. Hello, JJ. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Well, that's pretty good to hear, actually. Because normally you're just all like, meh, or whatever else have you.
True.
I hope that you do find yourself a job pretty soon, because that would be pretty neat. And
yep, I've been trying my damnedest to.
Yep. Trying to get things just a little bit more organized here on my screens, so that I can like view both the chat and the hangouts. Okay. So anyway, back with the article anyways. So my suspicion is that this might not be the same story, the story of the same video that I saw a few days ago, because have you been seeing a piece of footage at all, JJ, of some Muslims attacking people in cars as of recently?
No, I haven't. What's been going on about that?
Gang attacks in Liverpool, or at least I think it's Liverpool is what I'm remembering the footage of. But this article is definitely saying that there was like a gang attack in Liverpool, UK. So anyway, the drunken Yobs targeted three unknown men before Mohamed, 24, and Mohammed, 20, set up Gary Bahana when he revealed he was Christian. Laughing Farouk 19, who was not convicted of a racial or religious motive, then filmed Mohamed punching St. Helens councillor Paul Lynch to the ground as his terrified girlfriend tried to protect him. Liverpool Crown Court heard counterterrorism officers raided the three men's homes in Bolton after the shocking incident on March 20th last year. The judge, recorder Louise Brandon, said this was a disgraceful and sustained campaign of violence carried out on the streets of the city. Paul Treble, prosecuting, said fellow Muslim Idris Nasrati spotted two of the gang attacking a man in Bold Street at around 3:30 a.m. He said he was concerned because one of them seemed to be using racist language talking about Muslims and Christians. One of them came up to Mr. Nasrati and said, "Are you a Muslim?" Mr. Nasrati said he was, but the man said, "Well, what's the Muslim word?" Okay, so he's testing him to see if he's a liar. He said Mr. Nasrati replied with a well-known Arabic phrase, "There is only one God and Muhammad is a messenger." Mr. Treble said, it's a phrase often linked with ISIS. I don't know of how Sleepy Projections is in the chat. He said, seemed to be. Hey, how's it going, Sleepy Projections? So they say that this phrase is often linked with ISIS. I do not see how specifically that would be linked with ISIS. I mean, it could be linked to like any Muslim sect. And considering that ISIS is pretty much on the run, I would kind of have my suspicions that maybe it's not. He was concerned as to their exact intent, and they might be associated in some way to an extremist organization. Okay. Pinpoint of which exact extremist organization it is, please. Mr. Nasrati, Mr. Nasrati was told you can go, but when he tried to stop them punching another man, one replied, "It's none of your business." Well, he followed the gang to Renshaw Street, where Mr. Bohana was asked, "What are you?" The victim was confused, but when one of them said, "I'm a Muslim, what are you?" he answered, "I'm a Christian." The attacker shouted, "Why aren't you a Muslim?" before punching him twice, breaking his glasses and causing a 2-centimeter cut above his left eye. Why isn't he a Muslim? How about because freedom of religion? A concept that you cannot grasp, apparently.
Clearly.
Yeah, and I really wish I could find the specific footage that I was talking about a little bit earlier. I mean, it was not just a small gang; it was a massive mob of people. The description said that they were Muslims. A massive mob of Muslims, both white and black-clad Muslims, attacking people in their cars, trying to drive by and get past the whole ruckus. But I wish I had captured the video, because for some reason I cannot find it looking back on the feed, the Facebook feed of the person who I remember sharing it. But because that would prove to be a damning piece of evidence as to why you should have moderated immigration and not a massive influx of overwhelming immigration. Otherwise, you're not going to be taking in too many people at the same time to the point where they will not adapt fast enough. And in the case of Muslim extremists like this, attacking people just for not being Muslim, well, they have obviously not adapted to the culture enough to grasp the concept of freedom of religion and to at least be physically, maybe even be verbally tolerant of people of other religions. If they took them in at a moderated rate, the small amount of Muslim immigrants would have learned those concepts. But no, you had this massive group coming in with this mindset, and because there was this massive amount of Muslims coming in all at once, they were propped up and confident that they thought they could carry out their violent ways of practically forcing people to be Muslim. And by the way,
fundamentalists.
Yeah. And by the way, when I go reading these articles, the rule is that you can cut me off whenever you want to try and add in your 2 cents. Just FYI.
Yeah, I just like listening to it because it's interesting.
I'm glad that you find it interesting. The gang then encountered Mr. Lynch. Lynch, that is a very bad last name, if you know what I mean, JJ.
Oh, Lord.
Labor counselor for Moss Bank and his girlfriend, Jill Newton. Footage taken by Farouk captured Mohamed punch Mr. Lynch with a sickening blow that could be seen and heard. No racist comments were used, but Liverpool John Moores University student Farouk could be heard laughing as the victim fell. Mr. Nasrani called police, but Farouk fled, so the witness chased and caught him. The teenager punched Mr. Nasrani and struck him in the eye with his phone. Why with your phone? I mean, phones break easily, don't you know?
Unless it's a Nokia brick phone, that is.
Okay, I do not know anything hardly about those, so I'll take your word for it. But yeah, I was mainly referring to like Apple iPhones and smartphones and whatnot.
True.
But the hero held on. Mr. Bahana and Mr. Lynch, who suffered bruising and bleeding to his eyes, were taken to hospital. Mohamed made no comment to police, but later claimed he could not remember anything because he was so drunk. Excuse me. Yeah. I was trying to recall in my memory because there was something that I wanted to say, but I lost my train of thought. Muhammad initially, denied the assaults and suggested they had been racially abused by other men. Okay. Well, if there are many other witnesses and police investigations that say otherwise, well, sorry, but your single word is beat, dude.
Yep.
However, he confessed to targeting people because they were white and non-Muslim. Oh, so later he admits it. He denied it at first. But
So he's a racist and a religious bigot.
Yep.
Damn.
Apparently. Farouk told officers people called him and his friends a dirty piece, asterisk. I do not know what that slur is supposed to be. Dirty piss. And they were what?
Maybe it's pissant. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there will be 3 more characters to bleep it out.
True. I don't know.
I think it might be a racial slur that I just haven't heard ever before. Okay. Farouk told officers people called him and his friends a dirty blank, and they retaliated. He admitted filming because he thought it was funny and described it as a laugh. Okay, well, I wonder if that was one of the other people that was drunk. Mohamed of Perendale Rise, Bolton, and Muhammad of East Bank Street. Bolton admitted racially or religiously aggravated assault causing actual bodily harm. The pair, along with Farouk of Crumsall Street, Bolton, also admitted assault causing actual bodily harm and affray. Martine Snowdon, that almost like sounds like Edward Snowden's last name. Sure. Martine Snowdon, defending Muhammad, said her deeply remorseful client was terrified of being locked up. Well, tough shit if you assaulted somebody, you piece of shit. The university expelled him, but he had re-enrolled at Salford University and asked for mercy to continue his studies. I almost think that the guy should at least be given a few weeks or a few months in jail. Andrew,
I think he deserves to be locked up for a longer time than that.
Yeah, I would see that if it was like serious injuries. Maybe if it was like yeah.
I still see it as assault. No matter how much damage is done, it's still assault.
And you think all assault should get like what? Just out of curiosity, like 8 months, 10 months?
I say at minimum a year.
All right. Well, actually, perhaps maybe that would just like drill it in better.
Yeah.
Rearrange my articles here. Andrew Costello, defending Farouk, said his ashamed client was very drunk, but maintained he did not hit anyone or use racial abuse. So what if he was very drunk? If you were caught driving and were very drunk, you're still held to a certain standard of breaking the law in that case. Doesn't matter if you're intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there was a verbal dispute or something, and then maybe you could say, sorry, I was drunk because there wasn't any permanent damage done. But this is physical, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
However, he conceded the apologetic accountancy student tried to lie his way out of it. So that in of itself means that, in my opinion, that he should get sentenced. That explains it right there. Mohamed has previous convictions for criminal damage and battery relating to a family row last November. Sarah Johnston, defending Mohamed, said it appeared the group were racially abused, but that was not an excuse. She said he has brought not only shame and embarrassment, but also distress to his family. The counterterrorism unit became involved in the investigation, and the defendant's family homes were turned upside down by the police. I don't know if they have to like bring in the counterterrorism unit unless it was like a much larger gang or mob of Muslims. I mean, just in my opinion, it seems to be a little bit of an overly drastic, expensive resources. Although technically, I think a person could technically call it terrorism because it was politically motivated, or more specifically, religiously motivated, and it was violence.
Yes, so I think it is.
Recorder Brandon said the group may have suffered racist abuse, but targeted innocent men in violent and senseless attacks. So therefore, I mean, if it was innocent men that he ended up attacking as well, then in no way is that justified. I mean, even if it was like verbal racist abuse, I mean, if it got to physical and you were attacking them yourself, that amounts to defense. But if it was nothing but verbal, well, you still don't have the justification. It may be a little bit more justified to punch them in the face than an innocent being, but still. She said Mohamed and Mohammed's punching and kicking of Mr. Bohana was aggravated by hostility based on his religion. The judge said references to the fact he was not a Muslim was made, and you appeared to justify your actions because of certain beliefs you held. Yeah, get burnt, bitch. Recorder Brandon said after the joint enterprise attack on Mr. Lynch, frightened Miss Newton had no idea what you were going to do next. She said Mohammed confirmed those targeted that night were targeted because there were white and non-Muslim. Mohamed cried as he was jailed for 42 weeks. Mohammed, well, I don't pity you. Sorry. Mohammed and Farouk Patel received 42 and 18 weeks, respectively, in a young offenders institution.
Prison. Needs to be prison.
Yeah, and like I said, you cannot be taking in immigrants at an overwhelming amount, otherwise they will not be able to integrate into the culture very efficiently. And this article from the Telegraph goes expanding on that point, as the title reads, "Grooming gangs of Muslim men failed to integrate into British society." Here's a piece of evidence of what I've been saying. The failure of certain parts of the Asian community to integrate into British society has led to gangs of British Pakistani Muslim men targeting white women with drink and drugs before raping and sexually abusing them, an anti-extremism think tank claims. I wish that they had like directly quoted from the police department, the local police department, but all the same. Wait, JJ, you aren't seriously asleep, are you?
No, that was my vape.
Oh, it sounded like a snore.
Yeah, kind of did.
The report by Killiam calls for greater support to help integrate British Pakistani people into modern British society. I would also say slow down your immigrant intake. Now, I'm not going to be like one of these alt-right types and say that you shouldn't take in any Muslim people at all, but slow it down is what I say.
That's the problem with open borders in the UK. This is a prime example of this.
Right?
Not only that, the gun ban probably had the gun ban not been there, maybe he could have protected himself from getting beaten.
Right, in the in relation to the last story that we had read, it says that the gangs of mainly British Pakistani men have been influenced by the cultural conditions of their home country and a wider failure of British society to integrate these men into their adoptive culture. Yeah, I mean, British society, as far as I could tell, was it is being kind of pansies. It just, in general, like particularly when it comes to immigration and this sort. So it would not surprise me at all. Researchers who analyzed 264 convictions of grooming gang members since 2005 had initially expected to find Asians had been unfairly singled out. However, they discovered that 222 of those convicted, or 84%, were men of Asian origin. And by Asian origin, they're meaning like people who immigrated from the continent of Asia. They're not meaning necessarily Orientals. So just FYI. Only 22 were black and 18 were white, with 2 offenders not having an identified ethnicity. The findings are in stark contrast to the fact Asians make up only 7% of the UK population, the report said. So yeah, the ratio is going to be kind of high and unfair to that section of the population. Muna Adil, one of 2 authors, said, "We began thinking we would debunk the media narrative that Asians are overrepresented in this specific crime, but when the final members came in and we were alarmed and dismayed. For both of us being of Pakistani heritage, this issue is deeply personal and deeply disturbing." So you have even a Pakistani or herself person who is looking to debunk the claim actually finding out that it was true. So let that weigh heavy on everybody listening in. The report, called Group-Based Child Sexual Exploitation, Dissecting Grooming Gangs, notes how many of the gangs had operated in north of England towns and cities. Excuse me. When David Cameron spoke of the failings of multiculturalism in 2011, he was attacked from all sides. Miss Adil continued, "What these critics failed to see was the numerous self-segregated northern towns, the plethora of organizations that preach problematic attitudes towards women and other faiths, and the hundreds of young men and women being radicalized right here on British soil." When I hear the term self-segregated, I don't think of like public segregation, you know, where the government forces people of one race to live in an area and then another race to live in another area. I think the term self-segregated, I think of people just willfully wanting to be with their own race, which they have a right to do, but still. What do you think, JJ?
I believe self-segregation, somebody should be allowed to do that, but I personally don't find it good because, well...
I don't find it healthy, honestly.
Exactly.
Because if you live in an echo chamber of people who are all like yourself, then you are not going to have yourself mentally or spiritually prepared for when you do meet somebody of a different belief or race or whatever else have you.
Yeah.
They found that white girls from the Asian community were seen as protected because chastity was linked to family honor. Young white women were deemed easy targets and open to sexual relationships with a little persuasion. I guess it was because they were afraid of being beaten because of the culture that they were raised, like, had beaten them to a pulp already. Spiritually, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
They also identified how the men in the gangs had shared a common view of their sexual abuse, having collectively justified their behavior. Well, fuck you too then, you sociopath. Miss Adil added, there are elements from within the British Pakistani community that still subscribe to outdated and sexist views of women embedded within their jaded interpretations of Islam. Reform Islam, please. These backward views, that is me speaking, by the way, not the article, just FYI. These backward views are passed down from generation to generation until the lines between faith and culture dissolve, making it increasingly difficult to criticize one without being seen as a critic of the other. I think that's a good point right there. I mean, I don't know of a good analogy to expand on that claim. The report also urges politicians and the police to dismiss political correctness and fears of being branded racist to ensure they can tackle the problem of grooming gangs head on. It says the notion that certain cultures are out of bounds when it comes to criticism is not just misguided and misinformed, but often allows the most vulnerable individuals from society to continue to be victimized and abused. Since 2011, groups of men have been prosecuted for organized sex grooming crimes against hundreds of girls in Rockdale, Rotherham, Oxford, Telford, Leeds, Birmingham, Norwich, Burnley, High Wycombe, Leicester, Dewsbury, Middlesbrough, Peterborough, Bristol, Halifax, and Newcastle. In only 2 of these cases were the men not of South Asian heritage. Of all the victims, only 3 were not white teenage girls. So, what do you have to say in expansion of that, JJ?
Grooming gangs are disgusting and need to be put to an end.
Yeah. All right, so this is a fairly short article. So this was all that I had as far as Russian House is anything but conservative. Sorry. I did not have any articles to like bring up here after this article that we are currently looking at. So maybe once we're done here, we could like chat for a little bit.
Yeah.
Ayatollah. I'm banning all negotiations with the U.S. until Iran grows more powerful. That's not a good idea, in my opinion. You're not going to make us like you even more. You aren't even really going to make us fear you even more. You're just going to anger us even more to want to outright attack you.
Mm-hmm.
By Patrick Goodenough. And as I always say, cnsnews.com, the more I read of the website, the more I think that it's a mixed bag and how biased or unbiased it is. I mean, there are some writers on this website who would write articles that are quoting Reverend Billy Graham, who's dead now, by the way, quoting him as if he's like the next Messiah or something. And I don't really have an opinion of Billy Graham here nor there, but still, it gets just overly preachy and whatnot. But Patrick Goodenough of CNS, I think, is like one of the more objective and unbiased writers of CNS News. So let's continue. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Monday rejected President Trump's recent offer of dialogue, saying, moreover, he was also banning outright all negotiations with the U.S. until such time as Iran is powerful enough to be impervious to U.S. pressure. Oh, do I hear an implication of wanting to get nuclear weapons there, dude? Not a good idea. Entering into talks with a deceitful and bullying regime like the Trump administration would only hand it a tool to use against Iran. Khamenei said, wait. You know what also would be a tool to use against Iran? Is if you are going to try to build up your power to the points that you be proving conservatives, U.S. conservatives, right in the whole, you know, I don't want to say fear-mongering, but the whole pessimisms of Iran, I'll put it that way, in the whole pessimisms of Iran that the right typically has of Iran. You're just going to be proving their point more and more, Mr. Khamenei. Khamenei said during an address to Iranians gathered from across the country, according to reports in state media and on his official website. Khamenei said U.S. officials have recently been talking about both negotiations and war. Whoa.
Yikes.
Whoa. One step there, dude. One step at a time. Don't bite off more than you can chew there. In an all uppercase tweet last month, of course, it's all uppercase because that's Sir Donald Trump. Trump warned Iranian President Hassan Rouhani never again to threaten the U.S. or risk consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. Okay. First part, yes. Second part, no. Bad Trump. Bad Trump. You're just going to like stoke the flames a little bit too much, even more so.
Trump messing up again. Shocker.
Yep. He's inarticulate. A week later, Trump said he was willing to meet with Rouhani with no preconditions whenever the Iranians wanted to do so. Khamenei said in his address that there would be neither negotiations nor war between Iran and the U.S. Yeah, and, honestly, I think it's, like, pointless to negotiate with Khamenei, just in my opinion. But I think at the same time, when he refuses to negotiate with Trump, when he himself absolutely refuses to negotiate with Trump and wants to risk war, and strengthen their own power. They're just playing into the hands of the U.S. conservatives and the right in general. Not that I am necessarily for negotiations myself, but still, because I think Iran is hopeless. There would be no war because Iran would never initiate one, and because the U.S. would also not launch a war since it knows it would do so to its detriment, as Iran has proved that any transgressor will be stricken a bigger blow, he said. I mean, there is a little bit of a point to that, because I remember reading a U.S. News, or maybe it was USA Today, I can't remember exactly, one of those two websites, reading an article from USA Today or U.S. News, saying that if Trump was to withdraw from the Iran deal, that they would piss off the Russians and Chinese. And imagine if like we were to go to outright war with Iran. I mean, who knows who that might piss off. We might even risk war with North Korea, because I read that they have close relations with Iran as well. And there would be no negotiations because he is outlawing them, as did his late predecessor, Ayatollah Ruhollah. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini during the hostage crisis after the 1979 revolution. The Islamic Republic can negotiate with the U.S. only when it reaches the level of power and sovereignty necessary to nullify U.S. pressures, so that they have no effect on Iran, Khomeini said. Today, this is not the case, he said. Thus, I will ban negotiations with the U.S., just as Khomeini did. Khomeini also accused the U.S. of becoming ruder in its rhetoric towards Iran and other nations in recent months. Well, more specifically, it's not the U.S. becoming more ruder. It's more specifically Trump becoming ruder. Because, you know what? On that note, I hate it when that people always attach the faults of the U.S. or the faults of certain U.S. presidents with the U.S. as an entirety, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, is the entirety of the U.S. responsible for all the democracy projects that nobody really wanted? No, I think people would hold Obama more responsible for the Libya democracy project rather than the entire country itself, or at least a reasonable person would be having that line of thought. But hey, that would make too much sense, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly an allusion to Trump's tweeting style. Yeah, Trump's tweeting style, not the U.S.'s tweeting style, damn it. In what may have been a dig at that style, a posted excerpt. Don't you mean excerpt? I think they meant to spell excerpt, but that's a bit of a typo. They forgot the R in excerpt. In what may have been a dig at that style, a posted excerpt from the speech on an official Khomeini, damn it, I forgot my own pronunciation of the name, Khomeini Twitter account also used capital letters, as Trump's frequently do. There will be no war, nor will we negotiate with the U.S. It's like a repeat of Kim versus Trump, you know? Elaborating in the speech on his unwillingness to negotiate with the Trump administration, he accused it of treating negotiations as a business transaction. Well, considering that there are tariffs involved that would affect countries' economies, in a way, at least, it kind of is. But in another way, it's more dangerous in a simple business transaction because there are like lives on the line and countries' diplomacies on the line. Setting its own goals and then refusing to compromise on them. Oh, excuse me. Demanding that the other party provide immediate benefits while refusing to provide benefits itself, instead trying to enchant the other party with promises, and ultimately having reaped the benefits of the deal, breaching its own commitments. As far as I remember, I think that claim is overall true, because Trump himself was not really one to give in a whole lot. I mean, that was more of Obama, like lifting the sanctions and returning money to Iran and so on and so forth. At least that's my layman's, off the top of my head, information that I'm remembering. Kamani said Trump's repudiation of the 2015 nuclear deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, was a clear example of those negotiating tactics. In fact, one major criticism of the JCPOA was that the Obama administration offered Iran upfront benefits, including billions of dollars in sanctions relief, as well as $1.7 billion in cash. Yeah, that's just that proves what I said earlier about Obama lifting sanctions and giving money in cash, which the administration said was in settlement of a long-standing legal dispute plus interest. In his speech, Kamani also took a swipe at Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, calling him a stupid man and mocking him for accusing the Iranian regime of spending money in support of the Assad regime in Syria, even as Trump complains about trillions of dollars spent by the U.S. on wars in the Mideast. I would have to, I'm kind of interested, looking up an article that goes talking about the ties between the Iranian regime and Assad regime in Syria. Anyway, that's all I have so far. I'm going to just look this up, but how have you been, JJ?
I've been okay. It's just things are changing.
Yeah, looking for a job and whatnot, right?
Yep, and working for my mother for the time being.
Yeah, I'm looking here on Google. Iran-Syria relations, Iran-Syria predicament. Oh, excuse me. I have a very bad habit of yawning like that. By the way, what do you think of my new profile picture here? I don't think I've heard you comment on it.
I actually like it better than your old one.
The very last one, or are you talking about one of my much, much older ones?
No, I'm talking about the very recent past one.
Yeah, I gotta say that I do too. I mean, it just strikes more flashy, and it almost looks more 3D, I would say.
It looks more professional.
It looks more badass.
That too.
Syria conflict. What did the U.S., Russia, Turkey, and Iran want? Syria, Iran, and the Mideast conflict. U.S. base in southern Syria sends signal to Iran. Israel detects Russian shift on Iran's presence in Syria. Why Putin won't throw Iran under the bus in Syria. Iran wants to stay in Syria forever. Foreign policy. What Iran is really up to in Syria. The Atlantic. Iran's unwavering support to Assad's Syria. Combating terrorism. That would probably be an article more specific to the claim from Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. Mike Pompeo saying Iran is giving Syria money. So maybe I'll save that article for some other time. I don't know. Israel, Hezbollah, and Iran preventing another war in Syria. But yeah, the main reason, I mean, as I told you over Discord, that I wanted to get you in this in my panel of co-hosts was because Dark Conservatarian had left. And I guess from the very start, I should have included you in that because you had been a much longer friend and member of the Poor Bastards than, say, Conundrum, Sir Conservatarian, or even Loudmouth Reviews for that matter. So, I mean, the main reason, I guess, as to why that I was hesitant on that is because, and I don't know how much you would think of this as well. Maybe you would sympathize, but you're not that much of a political guy, though, would you think?
I say 30-70. Like me political versus me not so political.
I gotcha. And I guess the main reason why I want to bring you onto the panel of co-hosts right here is to maybe teach you, because you dive into political topics every now and again. Like there was your recent attempt to make a white privilege video.
Yeah, I should have done more research.
And I guess my hope in bringing you in this is that maybe you can learn a thing or two. I mean, I don't want to prop myself up as teacher and you as my student, but still. I mean, I'm not exactly a professional journalist, but maybe just by watching me and the rest of the panel too. You can like, I don't know, pick up a thing or two. And also, sometimes S-Man likes to provide articles as well. And if there is an article that you would like to bring on to Strike Force, I mean, every Sunday afternoon is particularly when we have them. If there's like an article that you would like to bring up on Strike Force, by all means, send me the link to it, and we can like try to squeeze that in the program.
All right.
So yeah, I'm also thinking. I mean, Conundrum hasn't really participated much in these strike forces. Actually, hasn't participated one bit. In fact, there was only like one time that Dark Conservatarian had ever come on, and now he's gone. I'm almost tempted to maybe ask Conundrum if I could replace him with Tomb Wraith, aka Zoe. Because I like the way that she sparred with Secular Hawk on the one stream about Gemini.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of Zoe? What you've seen of her?
I actually like her. She's very smart. She knows what she's talking about most of the time, and she can be pretty articulate.
I kind of like her rather bubbly personality too.
Yeah, that too.
I mean that always that always brightens up a stream, you know.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would be kind of disappointed at, particularly disappointed, is pro-choice. Pro-choice beliefs. I mean, I know that you are like moderately pro-choice yourself, but still, I just have to throw that out there. Like,
I'm just not a huge fan of it. Now, of course, there's certain circumstances, but ultimately, in my opinion, it's up to the woman.
right. Okay. So yeah, I guess this is where I'll end the stream off. I haven't even had dinner yet, so was there anything that you wanted to add or say, JJ, before we left off?
All right. Communism sucks, and Owen McDonald, you have some fucking Brussels sprouts stuck in your teeth. Good night, everybody.
Yep. Join us again, JJ, Sunday afternoon, and everybody else who has watched. We do these programs every Sunday afternoon and just randomly within the week. So anyway, this is Zach, the Dark Conservatarian, signing out. See you later, and God bless.